Jim, have you ever had to fight a giant?
Well, he seemed like a giant. When I was in high school, I was on the wrestling team and I had to fight this German, Jens Dykman. He was huge and he beat me.
Oh, so Jim versus the giant didn't turn out very
Didn't
well?
turn out very good at all.
Fortunately, folks, if you stay tuned, we know how to fight giants.
Welcome, everyone. We're excited to share some country wisdom with you.
King Solomon had a thing or two to say about the path to wisdom. In Proverbs 4, he wrote, "Let your eyes look directly forward and your gaze be straight before you. Keep straight the path of your feet, and all your ways will be sure."
Join us now for country wisdom.
You know, there's a beach way down there.
Way down.
And there's actually, I guess, a trail that goes down. Some idiot people go down knowing full well they're going to have to come back up. But I was realizing that if you're down there and the tide starts to come in, you get blocked off from the trail going back up.
Oh, yeah.
I would be terrified of getting stranded down there. So
You know, you have a lot of phobias, but that's probably a pretty
one or
decent
two-
one.
one or two- yeah, I think it's a perfectly logical
yeah.
phobia there. You'd have to really watch the timing and make sure that you weren't stranded. It's a lovely beach, but I don't want to spend an extra 12 hours there that I hadn't intended on.
Children of Israel could probably, fit right in with you in that scenario.
Oh, they could. Can you see across the Red Sea? Do we even know? Did it look as vast as this does?
There's different people say, oh, it was in different places, and it was actually the Reed Sea. It wasn't the Red Sea, and they could walk across. We know that's not real. Whatever it was a big body of water.
And they were trapped
And they were trapped.
between the proverbial rock and a hard place.
Yeah.
They were there because God had promised, gets them out of Egypt. And they must have been kind of like me and a lot of other Christians who think that once God saves you, it's just smooth sailing from there on out, no troubles. And yet they come right up against a rock, or in this case, a Red Sea, with an army behind them.
I had a friend that was kind of like that. My wife and I were instrumental in kind of bringing them to the Lord.
Mhm.
It was the craziest thing. One day I'm in his business. He said, Jim, he says, you're always happy. He said, why are you happy? And I began sharing Christ with him, and pretty soon, after a while, I said, would you like some Bible studies? And began studying the Bible with him. And they came to the Lord. But after about a year, I said, Jim, just can't do it anymore. He said, this is not what I thought it would be. I said, what did you think it would be? Well, he'd had a really rough life, and he thought now, when he became a Christian, everything would be glorious and wonderful.
And he ran up against real life.
He ran up against real life, yeah. God doesn't remove, God didn't remove the impediments that immediately that they saw, did he?
No, but he certainly made a path through. But they couldn't see that yet. We're looking back at the story, and it's real easy to think, well, of course, God promised he was going to take them to the land of milk and honey, and they shouldn't have worried about anything. But when you're standing there, you can't see the path through. You're standing in front of something you can't swim across, even if you knew how to swim. And I'm betting that if you were a slave in Egypt, that maybe swimming lessons weren't high on the priority.
Yeah.
And you see this cloud of dust behind you coming up fast. And you have to have known the only thing that can be making that is Pharaoh changed his mind and he's coming to drag us back.
And he's got 600 chariots and all the charioteers and all the foot soldiers and everybody else.
Well, Egypt was like the greatest civilization on earth. And how do you fight this little group on the seashore? How do you fight against that when you have zilch?
Yeah.
Except God.
The sad part is that's found in chapter 14 of Exodus. And basically they say, we should have just stayed in Egypt. We were better off as slaves in Egypt.
Steve teases me sometimes because there's a verse in there about how later on, they were complaining about wanting to go back to Egypt for the leeks and the melons and they had better food back there than what they were getting. And Steve was always saying, you would have been the first one to be complaining and going, I want to go back to where the leeks and the garlics are.
Well, so complaining, that's a perfect spot for a segue here. They were all complaining. Let's go back. Let's tell Pharaoh we made a big mistake. It wasn't our fault. God made us do this.
Moses made us do it.
Yeah, Moses made us do it. So
we'll throw him under the bus.
What does Moses say in verse 13? He said to the people, fear ye not, stand still. I got a feeling he said it pretty forcefully. In verse 14, the Lord shall fight for you, and you shall hold your peace. And the way he did that, I think he's saying, shut up, be quiet, and see what God can do.
I wonder if he had to say stand still because they were already turning around like they're going to bolt and, to run back to Egypt.
Yeah.
My family teases me because I have what they call the spider dance.
Okay, I'm going to hear that.
Or a panic dance. I see a spider and it's like you're literally levitating. It's like,
I wonder if Kara can find some B-roll to put in there right now. Show you dancing like a spider.
He's got something that I assume he's holding over my head for blackmail someday.
Okay.
Do you remember when we were in Kentucky and the cameras were rolling and all of a sudden the South has more bugs than California does, and they have bigger bugs. And I'm sure that the Kentucky state bird is some kind of bug because
now we're going to get mail from there.
From Kentucky. But this thing out of the side of peripheral vision is like, and it landed. Some huge bug landed right on my face. The camera was rolling. I was talking, but that was it. There was no maintaining composure. And so when Moses told them to stand still, I get the feeling that there were a number among them all of a sudden going, oh, what are we going to do? What are we going to do?
So, the next thing then is God tells Moses, raise up your staff. He raises up the staff and the entire sea parts, goes on one side, and the scripture says they went through on dry ground.
Right.
Now, there's nothing dry about that beach because water's been around.
Nope.
But God even dries out the sand for them. Pretty incredible, right?
Yeah. You would think after something that incredible that they would never complain again.
Oh,
wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Even it seems like you see something that amazing that from then on you're not going to get bothered by little things. That you're not going to forget what God did for you. And the next time you come up against a rock in a hard place, you're going to go, well, God, you did it before. Let's see what you got now. Mm-hmm. But that was not their experience.
No, and Moses finally, they go through, get on the other side, and they watch the entire Egyptian army, destroyed, sunk down with all of their battle regalia and everything. They can't swim too easily with all of that, sink to the bottom. They stand on the other side, and they sing the song of Moses, a song of deliverance, a song to God. And in verse 15, I just want to call our attention to that. It says, then the dukes of Edom shall be amazed, the mighty men of Moab trembling, because they see the children of Israel coming. There shall take hold upon them all the inhabitants of Canaan shall melt away. Where are they going? They're heading toward Canaan. Here it says in this song, all the inhabitants are going to melt away. Now, fast forward, right? Where are we going? Where's God taking them?
Well, they're headed to Canaan, but they took the roundabout route.
Yeah, it took the roundabout route because God knew they just weren't ready to take on a whole bunch of armies and a whole lot of fighting because they're slaves and they still don't trust God.
And what was it? Everyone over, was it 20? They had to wander for 40 years. But it was like a cutoff. Everyone this age, all those people who'd been complaining, you're going to stay out there and wander around until those people are gone.
We haven't even got to that part yet, though.
Ahead.
You're kind of jumping ahead of the story, but let's get to the part they get there to the Canaan land. God says, look, it is a land flowing with milk and honey. It's a wonderful place. They sent in spies. They began checking it out. They began examining everything in all the places. And, I kind of get the feeling they're gone for a long time. And kind of the children are looking, where
Where
can,
the spies go,
where
are they
the
going to
spies
come
go?
back?
Yeah, they're going to come back. And all of a sudden, I can just see, a couple of spies come up over the hill, and they've got a pole, and in between it is one cluster of grapes.
But it takes 2 men to
It
carry.
takes 2 men to carry one cluster of grapes.
Mhm.
It's pretty amazing. It's kind of like, hey, come on over to my house today, let's split a grape. That's what it's going to be like in heaven, right?
Right.
And they all said, when they got there, all the spies, truly, it is a land flowing with milk and honey. Truly, Lord, what you said is absolutely true. It's certainly amazing.
And they should have stopped there and shut up. Everything you said about the land is
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
Period. End of sentence.
No, it was incredible. And so, but there's a problem. You read in verse 28 the word nevertheless.
I know. That's what I said. They should have ended right there.
Yeah.
But no, they kept talking.
Had to keep on talking, So yeah, this is at chapter 13, verse 28. Nevertheless, the people be strong that dwell in the land and in the cities, and walled, and they're very great. And moreover, we saw the children of Anak there. Who are these guys? Giants. These guys are the giants. And we go on down. But the men that went up with him said, we are not able to take this place. Caleb stands up. Caleb is God's man. He said,
There were
yes,
2 of them, Caleb and Joshua,
Yeah.
2 of the 12 spies that went out.
exactly.
Yeah, but they were outnumbered.
Yeah, these guys said, we can take this land, everybody, come on. And they, no, you just can't do it. These guys are too big and too well armed, and they went on and on and on. And they get all the way down to verse 33, and we saw giants there. Giants. And you go, wow, giants in the land. Now what?
I don't like surprises. I like to know what's going to happen and when it's going to happen. I make lists, and I always have a plan A, B, and sometimes C. Needless to say, in today's uncertain world, I struggle with an embarrassing amount of anxiety. If that sounds familiar, you need to send for this free pamphlet, Certainty in an Uncertain World. To order your free copy, go to talkingdonkeyinternational.org and request offer number 121 and find hope for today and tomorrow.
In Congress, July 4, 1776. The unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America. When, in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men. We, therefore, the representatives of the United States of America, in General Congress assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions, do, in the name and by authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies are, and of right ought to be, free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved, and that as free and independent states, they have full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and to do all other acts and things which independent states may of right do. And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor.
You know, no one could ever calculate the amount of sacrifice that went into the making of this great nation. The gains of so many because of the loss of the precious few. You know, as a child in school, I sang America the Beautiful. God bless America. We started every day by reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. But a lot has changed. Biblical predictions are taking shape at an amazing pace. If you're about my age, you know that this is not the country we all grew up in. It seems like this nation is rushing toward a cliff with no possibility of return. When I became a Christian, I began studying biblical prophecy, last day events. I found a book called The Great Controversy that was amazing in its clarity. If you'd like a copy, log on to our website.
To order your free copy of The Great Controversy, go to talkingdonkeyinternational.org. Click on the Store tab and order your copy today.
I want to leave these guys momentarily on the borders of the Promised Land complaining and go back into Egypt where God delivered them by the blood of the lamb. They were to kill a lamb painted on their doorpost, remember? That represented
The
Jesus
very first
Christ.
Passover.
And, you know, they accepted Christ virtually in doing that, his blood, his atoning sacrifice. And they were led out. They get to the sea, as you talked about, and basically they were baptized in the sea.
Even though they never got wet.
No, they never got wet. So you basically had what the Bible signifies as justification. They were justified for the blood of Jesus Christ. They go through, and on the other side now is what's called sanctification, which authors say it's the work of a lifetime. Sanctification is learning to trust in God, learning to lay your life out to Him. And boy, did they have a problem with that. All of us do, I think, don't we?
We do, and that's why I really can't, be too hard on them, because I'm afraid that I would have been right in the thick of that. I'm not the bravest person. You hit a roadblock and it seems like this isn't what I signed up for. This is too hard. I'm never going to make it. And the fact that we can't see what God is really working at sometimes. And so we let go of His hand. We quit trusting. We think that we had it better before.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we didn't have it better in the land of slavery. The devil had us wrapped up in his clutches and wouldn't let us go. But God has delivered each one of us. As we accept Him, He delivers us. But then it's the walk through the desert. And the children here in chapter 14, verse 1, and all the congregation lifted up their voice and cried and wept that night. All the people wept that night. And all the children of Israel murmured against Moses, against Aaron. And this is the amazing part. The whole congregation said unto them, would God that we had died in the land of Egypt.
I know, we're so stupid. We really are. It's like He's trying to take you. He promises there'll be something better. And you decide that, no, it would have been better if you never came along and saved me, because I was doing just fine before.
Yeah, I was enjoying all the fine food, even though I was a slave, even though I had taskmasters, forcing me to do this and that. It was much better than out here. God, I don't want to do this anymore.
But like I said, I know that I've been equally stupid under circumstances that weren't even that bad.
But the Bible says too that all this was written for what? Our admonition.
So that we can learn from it.
So we can learn from it and not repeat the same mistakes over. And as you said, unfortunately, we do a lot of times. But God is very forgiving, but there are times when He's also staunch, when He said, okay, you wanted to die in the desert, you wanted to die out here, you were in the land of Canaan, the land of milk and honey, the spies, for 40 days. Okay, every day is for a year, I'll give you 40 years in the desert. See how you really like that. And,
it's harsh, but you realize He had to wait until all the adults who were doing all of that murmuring, complaining, didn't trust God. He had to wait until all of them died off.
It took God one day to bring the children of Israel out of Egypt, but it took 40 years to get Egypt out of Israel.
That's a good way to put it.
You think about it, it took all that long time, and a generation that was older than 20 years old died on. All the complainers, all of the, well, wait a second, there's two that weren't
Yeah,
complainers,
not
right?
quite all of them.
Not quite all, you know.
Caleb and Joshua.
Caleb and Joshua, you know, they hung in there. They were God's men. And now Caleb is about 80 years old, and he's ready to go in and take the Canaan land still, you know.
That's amazing what real faith can do for you, where you don't look at your age or your physical condition and think that's any problem. It's like he was still going, I can do it.
Yeah, yeah. Now, you think about this, and they get up to the borders of the Canaan land. Had anything changed with the land? I mean, you know, it was the same land, right? Where the same giants were there.
Oh, true. I was stumped there for a minute. It's like, I don't know
threw
the
you a
answer
curve,
to this.
right?
Yeah. You often do.
But they get there, and so they're going to send in spies again, right? So we find that and pick up in Joshua 2, chapter 2, and they go to a prostitute's house. I've kind of wondered about that,
No.
you know?
When I was a kid, the story was always kind of glossed over. It was like Rahab was an innkeeper. Now, from my studies and the fact I love history, I love sociology, I think back then innkeepers and prostitutes were often one and the same, you know, because any old flea bag inn that you dropped into probably had some extra services on the menu if you had the extra coins to pay for it.
Yeah.
So she may have been an innkeeper, but yeah, you're right, that's not
Yeah.
all she was.
But you know, I got to think, you know, because it really bothered me for some years. Like,
Why did they go there?
yeah, these guys are followers of God, you know, why'd you go there? Well, it makes sense. Her house was right on the wall, so it wasn't too far into the city. They didn't really have to travel much. And it was a place where a lot of men went in and out, so they could
It wouldn't look suspicious.
It wouldn't look near as suspicious. But somehow there was some suspicion because somebody came to her house.
Well, she obviously, she nailed it. She knew exactly who they were.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. It doesn't give, Bible does not give enough details. I want to know, what was it about those two that she looked at them and thought, they're not from around here.
But she hides them upstairs, maybe in the flax and the things she got stored up on the top
Yeah,
level.
it said it was the end of flax season, and
Yeah.
so she was clearly drying bundles of it up there. And she covered them with it and pretty much said, don't breathe till I come back.
Yeah, and a knock at the door. Now, what happened then?
And it was not just a couple of travelers needing a night's lodging. It was actual soldiers from the king of Jericho. So Rahab couldn't have been the only one who, you know, picked those two out and thought something isn't quite
Something
right.
different, yeah.
I think it's kind of funny that apparently they weren't as good spies as they thought they were, because they
Yeah.
got spotted immediately.
Yeah.
You know.
You know, they're up there and they snuggle under the flax, and then she comes up. Before they laid down, she came up onto the roof, and this is verse 8 and 9 of chapter 2, and she said unto the men, I know that the Lord has given you the land. Who is this woman?
She's completely pagan. She knows God has given him the land. All those people had had to die off over 40 years. They didn't know that, apparently.
She's a pagan prostitute, right? Yeah. And she knows, you know, the Lord has given you the land, and that your terror is fallen on all of us, and that all the inhabitants of the land faint because of you.
Yeah.
The other word there,
Melting in fear.
yeah, that's exactly the word.
Yeah.
For faint is melt. Now, when do we find that word earlier on? We talked about it in the beginning here in Exodus chapter 15.
Oh, right. Yes, I couldn't have remembered. I'd already forgotten which verse.
Yeah, the Song of Moses. All the inhabitants will melt. God already told them
It was
back there
actually
before
prophetic.
they got here. Yeah, and so all of these people had to go through the whole desert for no reason whatsoever. Here's this gal laying out now what happened really for 40 years ago, and says, we heard how the Lord dried up the water of the Red Sea. They knew that too. They followed
Yeah,
all
that
of that.
story got around.
Yeah, when you came out of Egypt, and that you did under the two kings of the Amorites. They're on the other side of Jordan.
Yes,
They-
in fact, those other kings, one of them, King Og,
Oh.
they have found his bed. And you talk about giants. I mean, the spies weren't actually exaggerating when they said some of these guys are giants. The only problem was that they left God out of the equation. But
Yeah.
they were telling the truth
It
about
was a real
giants.
king-size bed.
King Og's bed was made out of iron,
Yeah.
and it was 13 feet long.
Yeah, 13 feet. So this guy's pretty good size. Now listen to this. And as soon as we heard these things, our hearts did melt. Neither did there remain any more courage in any man because of you. For the Lord your God, he is the God of heaven above and in the earth beneath.
She knew exactly why
mean,
they'd been so successful.
She's a preacher of righteousness, you know. She's telling it all like it is. And you think about, what are these spies, what are they thinking, you know? Wow.
Well, obviously, I mean, we know the rest of the story. We know you talk about why did they go to her house. They might have thought, let's go there because it's less suspicious, a lot of people coming in and out. But God knew exactly why he led them to her house.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's so incredible that she said, you got to remember me. I know you're coming in. I know you're going to take over the city. Remember me. And they gave her the scarlet cloth, the cloth that represents Jesus Christ's blood, said, hanging out the window. Hanging out the window.
It seems like kind of a simple, silly little thing to do. What if she had decided not to bother with that step?
Yeah, yeah, but she didn't, because it said anybody in your house will be saved too. And I love that. You know, when you have Jesus Christ come into your life, into your home, you radiate and change everything in that home and save many other people too.
You can end up saving your whole family.
Yeah. But I got one more for you here. You're the English teacher, so I want to share this one with you.
Oh, it's
In
another
Joshua
test.
chapter 1, every place God says that the sole of your feet shall tread. What tense is that?
Future.
Future tense. That I have given unto you. What tense is that?
Past tense. Already
tense.
done. They
God-
already owned it.
Yeah, God went into that country. He possessed it. He beat everybody already. And he said, look, all of my children, it's the land of milk and honey. Just go in and possess it. You see, these guys had an eye problem. They were looking at one another. And I look at you, you know, you can't find a giant. You look at me, I can't find a giant, but God can. You know, when you're standing on God's shoulders, God can find any giant in the land. And so, folks, I want to turn to you, look to you, Janice and I both. You may have giants in your land, you know. Your giants may be stalking you. It's no problem, because God says, I will take care of them. I have conquered. I have overcome already. Wherever you go, I have been there. And I will take care of your situation. I'll take care of every giant in the land. Think about this. When you're standing on God's shoulders, there are no giants any place. Thank you for watching. Join us again for another exciting Country Wisdom.
See you next time.